All right, we're back. Graveyard Shift Movie Podcast, episode number 146. And this week, boy, I watched a movie called Be My Cat. A movie for Anne, I believe, is the full name of the movie. Hold on. Yeah, Be My Cat, a film for Anne from 2015. Uh, Basically it's about a guy obsessed with Anne Hathaway and he wants to make a movie with her, and so he's making a documentary showing his love and appreciation for Anne Hathaway with all these other actresses, and of course, it turns into a dark obsession. It's a found footage type movie. It's like an hour and 25 minutes. It's pretty good. I'm gonna give it a 6. The main guy, the guy who's like, he's the main star of the movie, is really great in it. He plays, let's see, Adrian Tofai. I'm gonna say that might not be. It's a Romanian movie, so I apologize if I got your last name wrong. But he plays a overexcited, obsessed fan really well. He's really convincing as the main character. And also the lady who ends up playing, I think her name is Fozy. It's Fozy? Yeah, Fozy or Rosie, but I'm pretty sure it's Fozy. Later on, there's a scene involving some maybe surgery of some kind, and she sells it amazingly. So she was really good in it too. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a 6. The ending's a little weird to me, and it's nothing like I said, the performances are good all around. But it's nothing that I feel like I mean, you kind of could predict where everything was going. Um, but it's not bad. It's a fun little. It's quick. It's fun watching this. There's some very dark. There's some dark comedy in there. Some points that you shouldn't laugh, but you can't help but laugh. At least me. Maybe not you guys, but Um, but yeah. Anyway, hey, spoiler warning for Be My Cat. This is probably going to be a shorter episode because it is just a movie. There's a lot of just talking. It's a lot of him talking to a camera. But spoiler warning for Be My Cat, a film for Anne. I'm going to ruin everything about it, so you've been warned. The movie starts off with some subtitles telling us that this film has been edited down from the 25 hours of footage found from a crime scene in Romania. And then when the tape begins, we meet the main character who is filming himself making a video diary for Anne Hathaway, because he had just recently saw The Dark Knight Rises, and he's become obsessed with Anne Hathaway and the fact that she needs to be the lead character in his movie that he is making called Be My Cat. There's a point where he's like walking through his house and he's like introducing Anne Hathaway to his mom. It looks like a normal house, and then when he goes to go in the attic, it turns into like a hoarder's house. Like he starts up the stairs and there's just clutter everywhere, and then it like cuts. He he tells her that he's hiring these other actresses, and he's gonna show her what it would be like if she came and made a movie with him. And he's hoping that this behind the scenes fake movie will inspire her to come and make the real movie with him. So the next day, also, this is when we first he's very excited during it, and he has this stuttering sort of talk where he's like, you're going to come, and you're going to really love, you're going to see that we're meant to work together, and this is exactly how it should be. That's kind of how he talks the whole movie. The next day we meet up with the first actress. I don't remember her name, but the first actress. And he's like, hey, we're filming this. This is behind the scenes. Let's speak in English. because it's easier for more people to understand. And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to film the process of us filming the movie. And these are all people that he's like Craigslist casted called, And apparently there's no script involved. He just sort of makes it up as he goes. He's like, all right, I'm an obsessed fan. You're an actress, and I'm going to film you walking by. And that's that's the movie. So they start to film, and immediately he turns into an asshole. He's super Stanley Kubrick, and like every take, he needs like 1,000 takes per shot. He keeps telling her he's gonna follow her with the camera, but she's not supposed to let him get within a meter from him. But he's able to run, and he tells her, you're not allowed to run. You can't, you just have to figure out a way. And she keeps, he keeps getting close, and he's like, that's less than a meter. I'm right next to you now, And it keeps going on and on. And the lady's like, what do you want me to do? And he's like, I don't know. That's not up to me. You're the actress. You need to figure out the way to solve the problem. And they argue about this, for a long time. Until eventually the dude's like, oh, hey, there's some smoke in the sky. Where's that coming from? And he just leaves. He just leaves the argument and goes, and there's just like a chimney fire. There's just like a big fire coming out of a chimney. And he's like, oh, that's pretty crazy. And so then he goes back to her. And he tells her that, now they're going to film a scene where he catches her coming out of her hotel, and he confronts her with how much he loves her, and she rejects him and all this shit. And this scene goes on for a long time, and the whole scene is just him going, no, you love me, and her screaming at him and being like, I fucking hate you, stay away from me, you freak, and all this shit. I mean, it might be 3 minutes of them just yelling that back and forth at each other. All of a sudden, though, in the middle of the arguing, she no longer is in character. She is talking as the real person, and she calls the police on him. And he's like, oh, what are you doing? And apparently it's just for her to tell them, hey, I'm with this guy. He's doing some weird stuff. So she wasn't like arresting him, but she was calling to be like, hey, if this guy starts some shit, help me out. Yeah. And so they get done with the cops, and he's like, oh, that was crazy how you called the cops on me. And she's like, yeah, I just wanted you to know. So then he's like, all right, well, hey, she's kind of done with the whole thing, and she's like, I want to leave, but he's like, listen, let's just film one night scene, and then you can leave, and it'll be fine. And so she reluctantly is like, all right, we'll film one night scene. So they film a scene where it's an abduction, and he's like, I got this rag and this chloroform, but it's water. It might smell weird, but trust me, it's just water. Wink, wink, And so, of course, when she comes walking around the corner to film the scene, he uses a real rag, puts it over her face. Chloroform knocks her out, abducts her. He starts laughing at the camera and stuff, and he's like, it was real chloroform. And that's one of those, I don't think you're supposed to laugh, but I couldn't help but laugh there, So he takes her back home, and he starts showing the camera this cat suit that he has. And he's like, oh, I'm going to dress her up in this cat suit. And he makes sure to tell the camera, he's like, this isn't me doing this. This is the character I'm playing that's doing this. We don't actually see, him undress her. But they wake up, or he wakes up the next morning, and she's like, he's in bed next to her, and she's in the catsuit, like tied up. He's telling Anne how everything he's doing right now shows her how committed he is to her, and how committed he is to the character in the movie. And this is like, he's like, you see, this is what you could have if you come to work with me. She wakes up eventually, And he tries to tell her that this is still part of the movie. And he's like, all right, now you wake up and you're captured, you know. But at this point, she's definitely not having it. So she's screaming. She's screaming for help. But he tells her, hey, I told everyone in the apartment complex that, you know, we're filming a horror movie. So none of the screaming is going to help you at all because they'll think it's just a movie. So he taunts her for a little bit. And then finally he's like, all right, listen, I'm going to kill you now because it's the ultimate commitment to a role that an actor could have. And you'll be a legend if you die for this movie, you know? And then, sure enough, we just cut to him. He has a pair of jeans and he's wrapped the leg around her neck. And he just chokes her out and kills her. He goes to the camera and he's like, oh, that wasn't very hard. And I was like, yeah, dude, this is, I guess it wasn't. He then goes and hides the body in like this abandoned section of the apartment complex where like, I don't know what used to be there, but it's been like abandoned. It's just like broke down, you know, there's nothing there. And he hides her like under a table and he's like, no one will ever find her. And I guess, to be fair, for the remainder of the movie, no one ever does find her. So he was technically correct. The next day, he's walking down the street talking to the camera. And he's talking about how the character he plays is obsessed with cats and girls. And how he wants to recreate a cat he had when he was younger. And the guy says, like, a cat I had when I was younger that I accidentally killed when I wrapped string around its neck or whatever. And he wants to recreate the cat with a beautiful woman, and he's obsessed with the cats and the girl, but he's like, that's the character, not me, you know? And then he's walking, and then he's like, oh, dead cat. And there's just a dead cat on the side of the road that he films. Yeah, so he tells Anne that together their souls will combine, and they'll be released from, like, their egos, and, you know, all that matters is the art, and you know, how he's fully committed to her and shit. The next day he goes and meets up with a new actress. This one is Fozzie, or Foozie, however you say her name, that I mentioned earlier. And I was like, oh, you must be starting the whole process over again, you know? Immediately when they start interacting, he's like, you know, you look different than your photos. And in the face, she did resemble Anne Hathaway. I was like, I could see that, you know? And he's like, listen, you're not skinny enough to be in this movie. You have to look like Anne Hathaway. Like, that's the whole point. She, like, talks shit about Anne Hathaway, and she's like, I'm a better actress than Anne Hathaway. She doesn't know how to act. And he was like, what the fuck did you just say? He's like, what did you just say about Anne? There's a great part in this argument where she goes, I think I am skinny. And he goes, no, you're not. He's like, listen, it's not my fault that you sent me pictures of when you were young and skinnier, and now you're old and fat. And he's like, I'm going to kick, you know, you're not doing this movie. You can't do this movie. And so she's like, well, you know, basically she's like, I'll fuck you, you know? And he's like, so we never actually see that happen, but I think it did, because the next time we see her, she's like changed clothes, and I'm like, I think we know what happened there, you know? We then meet up with another actress named Alexandra, I believe is her name. So now there's 3 people here. As the 3 of them are walking down the street, Alexandra tells Fozzie, she's like, did anyone ever tell you look like Anne Hathaway? And the girl's like, I told you, you know? He brings them into the basement area of of the apartment complex. And he sets up this place where he's like, this is going to be, where we have a surgery scene. I'm going to, you know, perform surgery here and stuff. And he makes Fozzie undress into her bra and underwear and lay down on this bed frame, and then he ties her up. After he ties her up, he tells the other lady that she can go back to the room and wait while they film the scene. And the lady that's tied up is like, hey, how about she sticks around, you know? And the lady's like, yeah, I could stick around. He's like, no, get the fuck out of here, you know. And so finally she's like, all right, listen, well, if you guys need me, I'll be in the room, you know. So she leaves. As soon as she's gone, the dude starts telling Fozy he's like, I lied. We're not making the movie right now. This is all behind the scenes. I'm sending to Anne. He's like, you're about to suffer, the ultimate performance for this art, and I'm gonna transform you, and I'm gonna, turn you into what you should have been. And he puts the camera down, and it's like a sheet that they set up, and then like you see her head and her arms, and he starts, I think, cutting pieces of her stomach off, because ultimately at the end of it, he's like, oh, I made her skinny, you know. So he starts cutting her, and we see some blood coming out and stuff. And this lady is screaming her head off. This is what I meant by her really selling it. She's really giving it her all at this point. Just, screaming her lungs out. And this goes on 2-3 minutes, just screaming. And at one point he gets up and he like has a laptop and he plays like a happy jingle on the laptop and taunts her with it. And then he goes back to cutting. And then we cut away and it's nighttime now. And he's talking to the camera once again. And he's like, all right, Anne, I think her wounds are healed up. Now I can go get her in the cat suit. And she'll be thin and she'll be ready to go. He also is like, oh, I gave her a lot of chloroform, so she'll still be asleep, So he goes down into the basement, and as he starts to dress up the lady, he's telling Anne that he doesn't know anymore if it's him doing this or if it's the character still. And after debating this a while on camera, he goes, no, I myself have become the character. He's like, I've become what I created. And he's like, I'm ready to make this movie with you. I've reached the point where I am able, I've risen above what I was before, and I'm ready to make this film with you. He's like, I don't even need the third actress. I don't need Alexandra. I'm going to let her go home. And then he's like, oh, shit. I think this girl's dead, So he tells the camera that he's got to go get some plastic bags and stuff to wrap up her body. And he's like, stay here, I'll be back. So he leaves, and it's dark for like a minute, and then you hear someone walking back, but it ends up being Alexandra who's walking back and stumbles upon her fellow dead actress. And she's like, oh, shit, So she grabs the camera that's on the stool, just in time for the dude to be coming back with a knife and plastic bags and stuff. And they have this stalemate, this standoff. And eventually he's like, listen, I want the camera. Just put the camera on the stool and go in the corner and I'll let you go. Just let me have the camera back. And so she's like, okay, So she puts the camera down and he walks over and gets the camera. And then, of course, after he gets the camera, he's like, I'm going to fucking kill you now, So he tells her, this whole thing was a documentary and how this is all to get Anne Hathaway to do this movie with him. And, he had to prove that he was fully committed and show how much he was worth her coming down to do this picture. She starts to feed into his ego about how she would be elated to have a director go through this much trouble to convince her to come and do a movie with her. She's like, I have to go to all these auditions and try to sell myself to a director, but to have a director try to sell himself to me is like the ultimate compliment. And she's like, you're amazing, and I can't believe you would do this, And he keeps going in the bits where he's like, I don't know if I trust you. And then he's like, really? And then he's like, oh, wait a minute, you bitch. And he keeps doing this for a while. And she's like, listen, really, this is the ultimate compliment. She's like, why don't you put the knife down and we can talk about this like artists? He doesn't like drop it, but he lowers his arm And he's sort of talking to her, and he's like, you know, I have to fully commit myself to Anne. He starts talking about he's got to kill his mom to show, you know, that he's only committed to one woman. He's like, you know, he's like, I have to kill all the other women in my life to prove my commitment to Anne. And so the lady's like, all right, well then you can kill me then. If you need to commit yourself to Anne that way, you can kill me, and it's fine. And I think that's the final moment where he's like, all right, listen, I don't want to kill you. Stand in this corner. And he's like, give me 10 minutes and don't call the cops on me. And she's like, I'm not going to, this is amazing. Go be with Anne. The dude starts saying how he doesn't even need to make the movie now. All he wants is to have a family with her and stuff, and how this is amazing. And she's like, I'm happy for you. And he starts laughing, and he's like, really? And she's like, yeah. And so he's like, give me half an hour. And she's like, half an hour. I'll give you half an hour, you know? And then he's like, what is this about? One word. And she says, love. And the guy goes, yeah. And then the movie ends. That's it. That's the end of Be My Cat. It's just him, I guess, leaving that lady. Clearly, I mean, she calls the cops. We don't necessarily know that dude got arrested. We just know that they found the crime scene. Yeah, and there's no further explanation than that. That's it. That's all that happened. That, by the way, that I just summed up, I want to say that was 15 minutes long with those two talking. And that's all that happened. So, there you go. Let me see if there's any cool facts to talk about real fast. Nah, I didn't see nothing good. That's a shame. Here's the real question. Do you think Anne Hathaway ever saw this movie? Let's see. Let me see if I look it up. There was nothing I could find on that. Anyway, best of, worst of for this movie. I guess my best of is gonna be, I guess I'll just say the main character himself. Like, I thought he was really well done. How just energetic and sort of schizophrenic he seemed. And, yeah, that was probably the best part of the movie. Worst part? I don't know. Honestly, maybe the ending. It's not bad, but at the same time, it seemed so just out of nowhere. And I was like, is that, that's it? Okay. You know? So yeah, I think I'm going to say the ending is my worst of. And that's it. For Be My Cat. A film for Anne. I told you it might be a short one, which is fine, because I'm filming this. This is at 7:43 p.m. on Friday. So this podcast will be up on YouTube in 2 hours and 27 minutes. Did I do that math right? I believe so. I'm not 100% sure, but anyway, next week, what are we going to watch next week? Me and the boys are trying to go see Evil Dead tomorrow night. I don't know if we would get an Evil Dead podcast done, though. So next week, I think we're going to watch The Ring. I think I would have watched it this week, but I was time got me, and it was a long movie, and so I was like, all right, we're not watching that. So next week we'll do The Ring, and after that, I think we're gonna watch the Amityville Horror, so that'll be coming up. I still have to do Chucky season 2. That I will start watching that soon, I promise. Yeah. So there you go. But besides that, go check out the gaming channel. Stuff's coming out there a lot. Come back next week. A longer episode. More time to do it, honestly. This was a very short movie, which I kind of expected it to be. And, there, you know, since it ended up being so much talking, there wasn't really, like, too many, you know, points to hit on. But yeah. Thanks for coming. See you guys next week for The Ring, the American Ring. We did Ring Goose, and now we're going to watch The Ring, which apparently are two different. I know the Ghost is named different. And we'll see, you know, which if I like this one better, if the other one is better. Yeah, so come back for that. See you next week. Bye-bye.